take this out and just put it like this. Without working it. We might have to just do that. Let's plan on that. Testing. Okay, good. All right, everybody. It's about 1 p.m. We're going to let some more people file in, so we're probably going to get started in the next 4 or 5 minutes, just so you know. welcome everybody to the celebration of life for my mom, Margi Dechenne. I know people came from all across the country to come together, and it just means the world to all of us that you are all here with us this afternoon to pay respects and give our love to such an amazing person in all of our lives. So my name is Sam. I am the youngest son of Margi and Tom, and so I'm going to be doing the MC tonight and kind of running the show, running the mic a little bit. I'm going to hold this. Okay, this is easier. So a little breakdown of how it's going to go. My dad and me and my siblings are going to say some things about my mom. We're going to play a slideshow that my sister Danielle put together. We're going to have a couple guest musicians come up and sing some songs and play some music, myself included. And then at the end, we're all going to sing a song together that I'll wait to tell you which song it is, but once I say it, you'll know exactly why we chose that tune, because it just represents my mom a lot. And then after that, we are going to invite anybody who'd like to come up and say something about my mom to come up, and it's an open mic. We do just ask that maybe you could keep it to 3 to 5 minutes long, something like that, just so we keep the show going, so to speak. A lot of people are going to want to come up and say some things, so just keep that in mind. And after that, we're going to have some food in the other room, and we can all just chat and drink some coffee and some water and just have a good time. And before you leave, I know people are going to be leaving at different times. My brother put together a book of wonderful pictures throughout my mom's entire life that we're going to give to everybody here today, so make sure to take a book on your way out. And accompanying the book are these beautiful artisanal homemade soaps that my sister Andrea and my sister Molly put together or created as an homage to my mom, who loved to make these beautiful, amazing soaps. So on your way out, make sure to grab the book and a bar of soap. Anyway, I think that's it. If I left something out, I'm going to be on the mic later, and I'll probably repeat it at some point. So. But we're going to start off and do a little slideshow that Danielle put together. And we couldn't get the audio to work, so we're going to do a little showbiz trick and just put the microphone right up to the computer. And this is a slideshow of my mom's life. So we'll have more pictures, and this is going to be on constant loop after the show, or after the event. Sorry. So you'll be able to see a lot more pictures. There's also, during my mom's years at Greenhouse, there's, yeah. Big ups to you guys, yeah. Her coworker and good friend Stella brought over a bunch of pictures from, the old 90s prom years and stuff like that. That's really fun to see. So that's in the other room, as well as a whole bunch of pictures back there that my family put together, and we can all look at them and get all choked up together. I should mention too, I wanted to say that, this is, obviously my mom touched so many people so profoundly and deeply that it's going to be easy to get all emotional and get choked up and cry and everything, and it's very acceptable and good to feel those emotions, and my mom would have loved that. And I feel like we're all in a place where we're all here together doing this, so if you get all choked up, we're with you. We're all together. So anyway, before I start doing that, I'm going to invite my father, Tom Dechenne, up here to kick it off and say some things about Mom. I think we'll maybe play it here. So here's some water for you too.
So how's this? Can you hear me, or do I need to be closer? It doesn't? Oh.
Maybe if we get, if you want to hold it at the beginning, maybe we get something to put.
Okay, we're good. All right, I'll try not to get shook up. It's been a while since I used the microphone, so whenever you can't hear me, just wave your arm. Or if you want to say something, do that too. My name's Tom Dechenne, Margi's husband of about 48 and a half years. And I had a couple of things. That I wanted to explain, and the kids are going to talk, etc. But I wanted to let you know how we met, fell in love, and then got married. And that's the one thing I really want to emphasize. And two of the other things is Margi was very independent. Anybody that knows her said, yeah, right. Very independent and bold, and she would take risks where others wouldn't. And finally, the kind of hope that she had. Didn't make any difference if we were talking about family, her street kids, the street women, cousins. She wished the best for everybody, and that hope drove a lot of what she did, in my opinion, and independence. Anyway, we met. She worked at a company called Cenex, as did I. She worked in the main office in St. Paul. I was in Washington. And the long and short of it is I had to go back to a management training deal. I was there for a couple of weeks, and I thought, boy, this would be neat if I ever worked at the corporate office. Well, a few months later, I got invited to go back. And I didn't know many people there, but I saw Margi in the cafeteria, whom I had. Or let me back up just a minute. When we were at the management training, the trainer says, "Hey, they're doing a piece on, early management for our. Somebody is going to put an article together, and they want to know if they could interview you." And I said, "Oh, sure." So I go to the cafe. There was only one person there, and it was a woman. And she turned around and looked, and I saw this beautiful, gorgeous young woman. And I go, is she the one that's going to interview me? So anyway, we walked over our interview. She interviewed me for about 5 or 10 minutes. The rest of the time, the rest of the 2 hours, we just talked. And that was that was to be done many, many, many times over the years. Anyways, after I was there for a little bit, and I don't want to carry this on too long, but Cenex had a warehouse, and the warehouse place went on strike. So those of us in the office had to go out for a week each. And Margi needed a ride. I gave her a ride. And so for a week, go out in the morning at 6 o'clock, get back at 5, 6 o'clock at night. I had these great, great conversations. And I'm going, boy, this is really neat. She didn't have to work Saturday, I did, and so she said, why don't you come over for dinner? And I'm thinking, sure, why not? So I did, and I'll tell you, it was one of the best dinners that I've ever had, because from that day on, we were together pretty much every day. So that's how we met, kind of got to know each other, and we ended up getting married. We decided to leave Cenex after a certain period of time. We were going to get married, and we were going to move to my family's ranch and farm with the folks, for the next 100 years. Margie was really into it. She goes, she had met my folks and so on. The kids were pretty much into it. But to move to 2,000 miles away, you're not in the inner city. We didn't have anybody, we couldn't see any other house. So we're out on the ranch. And Margie was all in. She says, yeah, we'll make the best of it. Let's do the best we can. But anyways, after a couple of years, we decided to move. Did a lot of searching and moved to Portland. So that was another second point of her boldness of moving. She says, "Where are we going to, how are we going to make this work?" And I, we'll figure it out. And she was the kind that said, "Okay, great, we will," and she did. So those were examples of her boldness. The other thing that I did want to mention is that she was very hopeful about people, very, very hopeful about people. Whether it was, her family, whether it was the kids, whether it was, no matter who it was, she had a lot of faith, and that hope, I think, drove many of her decisions. She was interviewing, I could go into all her various jobs, so to speak, but she was interviewing women for HTP program, and there was one woman came in named Katie, and she'd already hired a couple of people. Katie was in her mid-20s, and Margie asked her, "What do you think is the most important thing that we can convey to homeless street women?" And without hesitation, she said, "Hope." And hope. And that stuck. Margie didn't have to be told that. She was an example. She had the hopefulness of those people that she was working with, as well as home in our family. And she very much encouraged the kids and everybody else, do the best you can. If it's a little bit out of your realm, go for it, try it. So that was the kind of person she was. So anyway, we had, at Christmas time was one of her biggest biggest time of the year. And so at Christmas, when we first met, I got to go to Jean and Diane, her sister and brother-in-laws, with their 10 children. I went to, we had Christmas Eve there, and I'm going, what's this going to be like? I didn't know anybody that had 10 kids. And I walk in thinking, and they were accepting the kids, whether they were the youngest at 3 or 4 or the oldest at 27, 28. They were so kind, and I thought, what a big deal. And it was just, they invited me to join in their family over time, and it was so, so good. And so sort of in conclusion, I wanted to read a letter that Margie wrote to the family our first year being away from St. Paul. So I will do my best. Bear with me if I stumble a little bit. Anyway, Christmas, 1978. My dearest family, if I were home tonight, I'd come in the door and be kissed under the mistletoe by Jean, as I had been every year since I was 4. There'd be Christmas cards covering the closet door and the knitted Santa Claus head on the doorknob. On the fireplace, stockings head to toe across the mantel, the jar and felt Santa I made for Jimmy over on the television. If I were home tonight, we'd all admire Angie's dress and her patent leather shoes. She'd have a red yarn ribbon in her hair, perhaps. I'd get a hug from Gina because she is the kind of person who always knows when you want a hug and a kiss. If I were home tonight, the little kids would be sent upstairs at no particular time, and Santa and his helpers would carry in about 1,000 presents. Foofy would tell Debbie's Tom, as she told Georgia last year, as she told my Tom 2 years ago, that no matter how many times she's seen it, she cannot believe how many packages they were. Then Santa would, ho, 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 very loudly, and the kids would be summoned down, but not until they poised in mid-step on the stairs for the annual picture. And no eyes were ever any brighter than those kids. If I were home tonight, Diane and Debbie and Molly and Lisa and I would distribute presents, oohs and ahs, kisses and hugs. Try this on, hold this up. Oh, I wanted one so much, were the comments. Pretty soon, there'd be neat piles of boxes in everyone's own established territory. Foofy starts picking up wrapping papers, sacks and sacks are gathered. Save the bows. And that was a big deal to Aunt Foofy. Then up with the TV, then up with the TV trays. Oval crystal dishes and a place for a matching cup. Sarah would come around with the goodies, Diane's favorite fudge, or Diane's famous fudge, divinity caramel rolls and Russian tea cakes, coffee from a carafe. If I were home tonight, we'd do all the things we do every year. Eat the same special foods and have the same decorations and tell the same stories. It would be so because of a conscious effort to steal time, to recreate every year the assurances that whenever we go, even if we grow up, we can go home to be children again at Christmas time, to share again the feelings that things will always be the same between us, and to remind each other that we are celebrating in part that which does not change. Our love for one another, our generosity with each other, and the undiluted joy of being together. If I were home tonight, I'd hold my great nephew for the first time, and we'd all rejoice that Georgia and Tom will be part of our family next year. This is 1978, by the way. I'm thinking of all of you in spirit of longing, and I can think of no merrier Christmas wish for you than that which you already have. Each other's loving company. It's only a journey of the heart back, and like the song says, I'll be home for Christmas, if only in my dreams. I love you to this day and all days. Margie, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Dad. Great job. That was awesome. Tom Dechenne, everybody. So we're going to invite our friend Cynthia from Minnesota, who came out, who wanted to sing "Oh Danny Boy," classic old Irish tune, and me and Molly are going to accompany her. So that's about to happen.
Oh, Danny
Cynthia Hector, everybody. Next up, we're going to invite my older brother, the oldest son of Margi and Tom, Nick Dechenne. Stand a little easier.
I want to thank you all for coming. As I said, I'm Nick. I'm Margi's oldest son. As I was thinking about today, in great part, and mostly when I was putting the book together for my mom, I thought about a number of things, and I'm gonna get a little weird on you here for a minute, but just bear with me. When my mom died, I worried about the data. And that's how I'm an operations guy. I think about information all the time. And when my mom died, I realized that there were so many questions that I never asked. There was so much information that I didn't know, and that I was never going to get an opportunity to get from her again. When we live our lives, there's so much information that is learned, and we take in personal information, we take in information that we share, we take in information that we give to our kids, to our spouses, to our bosses, and everybody gets to see this part of who you are. There's a woven fabric, I think, in my mom's case, that was very much the case, but when she left, I started to really miss the information that I didn't have. I wanted to know more about this person, and as I began to put the book together and started to see the bits and pieces of her life and see how she became the person that she became, it became very important to me. My Aunt Diane, who couldn't be here today, unfortunately, is literally the only person on this earth that has known her for her entire life, that is able to say from the minute she was born to the minute that she died, every single thing about her. I'm glad that everyone is here today because the information that we share today is what I think is most important. Learning about this person beyond what you knew her to be. I get to experience her, and I did experience her in a very different way from all of us. We like to think about our parents, our moms, our dads, at least I do, as that person that we grew up with, the person that raised us, the person that taught us who we are and who we became. And then when we become adults, that changes. We have different relationships with our parents, and we still have that. But my mom, for me, different from Sam and Molly and Andrea and Danielle, was, I think, a little bit different. Our lives were very different. I'm going to share some stories with you today and talk to you a little bit about what my mom was like as a kid. You know, she was 20 years old when I was born. This is in 1965. Within 5 years of that, she was a single mom with 3 kids. This is before 1970, right? So she's finding her way. Her parents were gone early. Thank God for my cousins, for my family. They were our family. We were with them all the time when we were younger. I don't know what I'd do without those people, honestly. And for that period of time, things were dynamic. I'll just put it that way. We had a very interesting childhood. I mean, if you look and see, there's this kind of part where my mom goes from this sort of 60s kind of, you know, prim and proper to sort of things got a little sideways there for a while, you know. And it was really, really fun. I mean, we got thrown in the back of VW buses, and guys with, you know, long hair would just throw us in the back of an old VW bug, and we'd be off somewhere, and it was fun. It was great, right? And I don't think a lot of people get that opportunity as kids. Our lives were very chaotic. They were always full of love. Mom had music blaring all the time. Kids were coming in all over the place. She was wearing a robe and dancing in the middle of the living room, and just like 100 kids are running in and out. That was just kind of the way our life was when we were younger, you know. And I loved it. It was absolutely fantastic. I don't think a kid could ask for a better childhood. You know, you feel loved, you feel safe, you feel cared for, and at the same time we had fun and adventure. Those are memories that I'll carry my whole life. My mom, as you will know, cared for people for her entire lives. That expressed itself always when we were even little. My mom was notorious for bringing home animals that were just messed up, honestly. We had just moved to Lincoln. Mom bought her very first house. And so we moved to Lincoln. We're like, oh, we got to get a pet. We have a fence. Let's get a pet. So she went off one evening. I'll never forget this. She went off one evening to go to the pound to get us a new dog. And so, you know, we're 8, 6, 5, whatever the age at the time. Well, she comes home with this raggedy-ass old terrier that I swear to God, it had a cast, and it was like, and it was all scruffy. Half of its hair was out, and it was just the 3 teeth in its head. You know, and you're this kid who's like, we're going to have this dog. It's going to be a great dog. We're going to play with stuff. And instead we get this racked up mutt, you know, that my mom was like, she goes, I just felt so bad for it. I just felt like we had to get this dog, right, you know? And that was just kind of the way it always was. I mean, somebody's dropping in, somebody's going to need some help, and my mom was there for that. A couple of years later, Dad had come by then. I used to sleep in the basement of this house that we had. So I had a little room downstairs, and I'd come up to go to the bathroom once in a while. I come up at the middle of the night, and there's this horse lying on the floor in the middle of our living room. The biggest thing I've ever seen in my life. Well, middle of the night, apparently there was a dog show over at St. Thomas College, which was not far from where we lived. This purebred dog had escaped or gotten away and just showed up at the door and soaking wet. It was an Irish wolfhound. I don't know if you guys know what those are, but it's one of the largest dogs that there is. The thing was literally, it was about as big as a horse. And I come upstairs scared to death of this massive creature that is all wet and soggy, laying in the middle of the floor. And I'll add, that thing farted worse than any animal I've ever known in my entire life. It was absolutely terrible. But of course, that was the deal. If something showed up, Mom would take it in, and that was the way it went. We took it to a farm. Some breeder took it and was able to give it a home. We had a bird. We'll talk about Polio Eddie a little bit. My mom got this doves. She had this great idea. We're going to have doves. It's going to be great. We're going to have this whole thing, you know. So we got these doves, and then one of them had an egg, and so it was this huge big deal. We're going to lay an egg. The egg's great. We're going to have this whole thing and this. But you have to like learn how to handle making birds. You know, it's not like you just go, okay, here's the thing. So the bird was born with severe deficiencies. It couldn't walk. It was all sideways. And so they named it Polio Eddie. And it was like this thing that we had, you know, with the dog, right? And I'm sitting here going, is this just our life? Is this what it is? That everything that we get is going to be really cute and really neat, sensitive, but we're going to have to take care of it, and that's the whole thing, right? And it's kind of the way it was, you know? Later, we got rabbits. Let's talk about Piper, Jaffrey, and Hopwood, who we had for like 3 days. Piper, Jaffrey, and Hopwood were like, we stuck them in the thing, and well, we're going to have these little teeny tiny bunnies, and you can't have rabbits. If anyone knows about rabbits, it's like you can't have rabbits because they die if you look at them. So here we are. I'm in like 5th grade probably at the time, and I've already been scarred by the one-legged scruffy dog, Polio Eddie, and now we have these 3 rabbits that are dying en masse. I mean, literally, we would go out the next day and there'd be a dead rabbit. And I was like, okay. But Mom's like, well, we got to have the there's cute little rabbits and stuff and the whole deal, you know. And so we did. And they died. And later, it was kind of funny. I was working this job not long ago, and one of my coworkers got a rabbit, and I was like, good luck, man. Those things die, and they're going to be gone in a week. And like a next status meeting, she goes, the rabbits died. And I'm like, I know, right? Anyways, That part of my mother has always been a constant. And it's funny, yeah, we've got great stories about it, but my mom's need to help people later in life, to be an advocate for people, I think is kind of her greatest strength for a number of reasons. The first is that we were benefit of a person who had extreme compassion, which means as kids we were able to talk to her about anything, anytime we wanted, with zero worry at all. And I think that's pretty amazing. The ability for her to give me guidance as an adult is something I'm going to greatly miss. And I will always miss. I think about that. In that trait of hers is in my son. He has that same compassion for people, and he has that gene, and I see my mom and him all the time, and it makes me happy that he has that in him. My mother was an extraordinary person. I think she lived an extraordinary life in a very ordinary world. Her ability to surprise us, to be interesting, to constantly be new, inventive. She would, as she got older, those things began to express itself in different ways, whether it's, hey, we'd have some crazy Ethiopian night over at the house and everybody were going to do some crazy dinner, or, whatever it was. It was always something kind of different. And I think that was pretty special. I am hopeful that, and looking forward to hearing stories from people today, to hear the things about your experiences with my mother that I didn't know. People who worked with her, people who were closer to her in other ways. And I thank you in advance for that, because that's really, really important to me and for all of us. When we go, the stuff doesn't matter. The stuff goes away. People take the stuff. Your stuff goes to garage sales. Your stuff goes to other places. People take the things that they want. But the memories are the things that stay. And we here have benefit of that today, which is, again, why I'm so glad that so many people have come here today to talk about my mom and share stories with her. Help me get that data that is so, so very important, I think. I want to know as much as I can know about my mom. Thank you.
Next up, we'd like to invite Margie and Tom's oldest daughter, Andrea Bergman, to come up and say a few things.
Can everybody hear okay? The first gift I recall ever receiving from my mom was a 45 of Johnny Nash's single, I Can See Clearly Now. I was 5. It wasn't my birthday, it wasn't Christmas, it was just a day that she made special because she knew how much I loved the song. We sat cross-legged on the living room floor and played it over and over again, carefully moving the stereo needle back to the beginning each time. I can still see her smiling face, looking at me with joy in seeing my joy. My mom was the happiest when she made other people happy. She injected spontaneity and joy into everything she did. Once, when I was about 4 years old, we were living on Summit Avenue in Minnesota. At the time, it was just my mom, Nick, Danielle, and me. And it started to torrentially rain. It was summer, it was hot, it was humid, and my mom, bursting with excitement, yelled, Let's go run in the rain. So we all four scampered shoeless out the door, feet slapping on the wet sidewalk. We ran up and down the block and danced in the deluge. This story to me is quintessentially my mom. Infectious in spirit, able to live in the moment, a rejecter of convention in service to happiness. She had a favorite poem which really captures this. It's called "When I Am Old, I Shall Wear Purple" by the Scottish poet Jenny Joseph, and it goes like this. When I am an old woman, I shall wear purple with a red hat which doesn't go and doesn't suit me. I shall spend my pension on brandy and summer gloves and satin sandals and say we've no money for butter. I shall sit down on the pavement when I'm tired and gobble up samples in shops and press alarm bells and run my stick along the public railings and make up for the sobriety of my youth. I shall go out in my slippers in the rain and pick the flowers in other people's gardens and learn to spit. You can wear terrible shirts and grow more fat and eat 3 pounds of sausages at a go, or only bread and pickle for a week, and hoard pens and pencils and beer mats and things in boxes. But now we must have clothes that keep us dry and pay our rent and not swear in the street and set a good example for the children. We must have friends to dinner and read the papers. But maybe I ought to practice a little now, so people who know me are not too shocked and surprised when suddenly I am old and start to wear purple. I know why this poem resonated with my mom. It spoke to her independent streak, her creativity. She was a poet and a storyteller. Though let's be clear, my mom never would have learned how to spit. She was way too into her cleanliness. She had a love for crisp, clean sheets, which she would iron with special lavender-scented water. Soap was one of her favorite things, so much so that she learned how to make gorgeous, luxurious bars of soap. As you all know, my mom did not wait to get old to wear purple or embrace her wild streak. She skydived in her youth. She bought hundreds of pairs of shoes and sometimes wore mismatched socks. She once rolled mashed potatoes in cornflakes and fried them in a pan and told us that we were having potato poopies for dinner. She went into the rain without slippers at all. And that example was enormously powerful to me. I learned that there are times to throw convention to the wind, push boundaries, take risk, welcome change, and above all else, not to take life so seriously. My mom faced every day with an open heart. She could connect with anyone because she assumed the best of everyone. She practiced radical love and acceptance before those terms entered our common lexicon. She was a mom to all who needed her. To her friends from Greenhouse, Elizabeth House, and HTP who are here today, I want you to know she loved and adored you, and your presence here would mean everything to her. Finally, I know today is supposed to be a celebration, but I confess to not feeling very celebratory. I really miss my mom. In Johnny Nash's words, I haven't yet seen the rainbow I've been praying for. But I have so much faith in my mom's eternal optimism. I know there will come a bright, bright, sunshiny day when I wake up and think, I can make it now, the rain is gone.
That was beautiful, Andrea. Now we'd like to invite Danielle Dechenne Angles up, second oldest daughter of Margie and Tom. Some water here.
I found speech, by the way. Thank you for helping me look for it. I'm Danielle, third child, third oldest and third youngest. There's a line, can you hear me okay? There's a line from a classic story my mom used to reference. This story tells of an African boy who wanted to give his teacher, a missionary, something special for Christmas. He didn't have any money, so the boy walked a great distance over rough terrain to the coast to find a beautiful and unusual seashell. When he delivered the shell to her, the teacher, touched by how far he had traveled, told him he shouldn't have gone so far and out of his way to bring her a present. The boy smiled and replied, "Long walk, part of gift." My mom used this phrase often when I would marvel at the efforts she made for a meal or a gift. She delighted in seeing others' reactions to what she had planned for them. One year she got us kids Vitamixes for Christmas, and in unison we all jumped up and down screaming in excitement. She later referenced that as one of the best reactions to a gift she had ever gotten. She just loved to give and see the reaction. And boy, was she generous with her gifts, her time, and her words. The best gifts I ever received from her are her letters. In her letters and cards, she could capture her life's moments in ways that made me feel I was right there with her, and I could hear her voice. She was precise with her wording, funny and intentional. What moved me was that she always showed me, kind of revealed, that she was paying attention. Birthdays and special occasions had themes that captured the current moment, that were meant to inspire and encourage. It would be remarking on my parenting, or how hard I was working, or the growth and evolution of our relationship. The message was that she loved me, that she really saw me. To this day, not a card is read without tears, and I saved them all. Sometimes it was a literal theme. As a kid, one of my favorites was rainbows. It was my 9th birthday, and she wrote me a poem, A Danielle Rainbow, which is a celebration of my light and the love and joy she felt for me. That's how she made me feel, celebrated. In the later years, she marveled at how our relationship had evolved, and that she could ask me for medical advice. She just loved that. She was always a creator. By nature, she had to express herself and make the world around her more beautiful. I remember her sewing clothes for us when we were young. I regret to say we were picky and didn't appreciate her clothes-making efforts at the time, but I treasure the first communion dress she made for me. Then there was needlepoint, Christmas scenes, then cross-stitch. She made so many beautiful pieces throughout her life. She learned about quilting from Grandma Billy and taught herself the rest. There were only a few quilts, as she quilted every stitch by hand, which was a laborious and precise process. I think it was therapeutic for her, though, working on her flowers quilt that you can see in the back at Greenhouse while sitting at the door during drop-in. She told me that it put people at ease. It was a way to engage conversation. It was an opening. That gift was a 10-year walk. It was glued to her lap or laid out on the TV room floor as she was measuring the next block. It had weathered many spills and events even before it was finished. She later learned to make soap, as you have heard. I loved coming into the house and seeing her in the kitchen working with several large pots, essential fragrances, oil bases, and acids like an alchemist. There was always a baseball game on in the background. Actually, there was a radio on and the games silenced on TV because she liked the radio announcer better than the TV one. But she was into her process and was forever up-leveling her soap making. Soaps were crafted with quality ingredients and were so pleasing to the eye they made you want to reach out and take a bite. She gave the soaps away whenever anyone would come to see her, or she would bring some to you. It was always a treat to receive them. Those gifts, along with her food, which is a whole other rich and layered aspect of her life, which I'll pause here and say that my dad, talking about that first night that she made him dinner, she made him her famous lasagna, which after that night was coined her man-catching lasagna. And we all make it to this day. That's what it's called, the man-catching lasagna. Where was I? Okay. But the soaps, the food, it's ephemeral. I guess that's like life, but whether it was something she made that we can touch and feel today, or read on paper, or whether it was the time we had with her, her spirit remains with us, has enriched us, and I'm happy for all of us that we got to be in her life and that she touched us all with her beautiful gifts. Thank you.
Next up, Margi Dechenne, Margi and Tom's youngest daughter.
Roscoe was a dragon. He was pink, purple, and green. His best friend was a girl named Wendy and her dog named I Don't Know. It's an amazing dog name, by the way. They had a sentient crystal ball, a giant spider, and a witch as antagonists, among others. And they went on adventures, you see. Approximately 2 a day for however many years Sam and I had bedtime stories. Mom came up with them all. She was proud of how good she got at whipping them out. I remember a particular Christmas-themed story in which the spider, in typical holiday episode fashion, set aside his villainous ways to help them celebrate. He used his 8 legs, a menorah. I remember it was very inclusive. I wish I could remember them all. She would say sometimes that she wished she would have written them all down, but I think the fun part for her was coming up with them in the moment, getting ideas for them throughout the day. She was a writer, and I know it was a fun way for her to flex the muscle. I don't think anyone loved a good story like Margi Dechenne. In folkloric tradition, she would tell the one about the time she and Betty Bazan slid down the laundry chute or something at the school. They weren't supposed to be up there, and when they went down, they accidentally bowled over some nuns at the bottom. I loved that story as a kid, even if the mechanics of it were confusing. When I called to ask Dad about what kind of chute it was, he hadn't remembered the part about knocking over the nuns. Perhaps that was a detail that got added in with time to make the story a little funnier. As a writer, you cheat for the sake of art sometimes. The details aren't as important as the vibe. I loved her stories about growing up in Minnesota, ice skating home from school, warming her wet mittens on the radiator, her parents who I never met, and the 60s. In the spring of 1994, Mom and I were driving somewhere, and I heard the song American Pie for the first time. I'd never heard anything so enigmatic and fascinating. This was before YouTube, so my only option was calling the radio station. Mom bought me the cassette tape on the last day of school that year. I played it over and over again, poring over the lyrics. It broke my heart, and it left me with more questions than answers. It might be hard to imagine having that reaction now, a song played so often in stores and restaurants that it might as well be wallpaper. But the first time I heard that chorus, it was like seeing a new color. Dancing in the gym, a pink carnation in a pickup truck, these things made sense to me. I also liked the oldies station, so the imagery was familiar. The widowed bride, though, the jester, the devil, James Dean, interpreting the lyrics required a knowledge of references I didn't possess, so I followed Mom around the kitchen with the liner notes unfolded, asking her to explain every part. I learned all about the 60s and yearned to live through them the way she did. I was already a sentimental, nostalgic kid, so American Pie was planted in fertile soil. I romanticized and fantasized about a time when things were happening. To wear clothes like that, to be beautiful like she was. Mom loved to fantasize about things too. You have to. I think the fantasy is where great ideas start. Getting excited about something is the first step towards making anything happen. Sometimes passion for a project is enough that the roadblocks don't stop you. If Mom wanted to make something work, she would find a way. She created Greenhouse with zero experience. She simply saw the need for a program like that and worked it into existence. One of my favorite things about her is that she tried things, anything that was of interest to her. She took Italian, she took a marimba class, she made quilts, she could cook anything. Okay, as a side note, the man-catching lasagna totally works. I made that for my husband, Stephen, on our first date. And the rest is history. She jumped out of airplanes hundreds of times. And this was before you jumped tandem out of a plane. She had to learn how to do it through intense ground training and self-reliance from the first jump. She learned how to make soap. She understood the different oils and scents, how they work together in the process of cold pressing. Making soap might not sound like much, but it's precise the way baking is, with the added complication that lye is incredibly caustic, and when handled incorrectly can cause chemical burns or even explosions. But Mom figured it out. There were always racks of soap drying in the dining room. After she passed away, my sister Andrea and I went through her supplies and divvied them up. I read recipes and learned that there's more to it than I thought. The lye mixture and the oils have to come to a specific temperature before they're added together, at which point they're blended to emulsification and poured into a mold. My first batch seized immediately due to, I think, a temperature discrepancy. My second batch didn't harden at all. The third batch hardened a little, but only to the consistency of butter. They're still in the molds, actually. I don't know how to get them out. My fourth batch was supposed to be goat milk and honey, but because I had neglected to let the lye cool properly before adding the milk, it burnt, giving it an acrid smell and an uneven yellow color. How was this so complicated? Mom made hundreds of bars of soap. If she could do it, then what? Anyone could? She was capable of incredible things, not the least of which was making soap, of all things. But we underestimate our mothers, don't we? Because they make it look easy, and maybe because they hide it from us when things are hard. Even as I want to emphasize the parts of her that were outside of motherhood because she was her own person who did and made amazing things, she was my mother, and she loved being a mother. She made all our Halloween costumes. I went as a snowy owl one year, and she stayed up all night stapling white construction paper feathers to a beanie and a garbage bag that I could wear over my winter coat. She cooked for every meal, decorated for every holiday. At Christmas, their house was like the North Pole, almond roca and chocolate turtles as far as the eye could see. Her Christmas village setup was a quaint Bavarian clifftop hamlet called Margi Town, which featured both Times Square and Safeco Field. Every Christmas ornament any of us ever made, every ratty, discolored paper plate Santa was prominently displayed in a chaotic explosion of memories and holiday spirit. In the morning, we would read the note from Santa thanking us for the cookies, the note she wrote, the cookies she baked. Everything that was fun and magical was because she made it that way. Even in the end, when she was struggling to communicate, the two phrases she was still able to say were "thank you" and "I love you." That was true in her heart. She was a deeply thankful person. She didn't like to complain and counted her blessings often and vocally. How lucky she was to have found her calling, found Dad, us 5 kids, the house, the food we had to eat, the rain for the plants, everything. Just 2 days after she passed, I'd found myself in the house all day while it rained. The clouds parted right around sunset, and I decided it would be good for me to get outside at least for a little while. I stepped out into the blue and golden sunset, and when I got to the end of the driveway, I gasped at the most vibrant rainbow I've ever seen. In my whole life, I've never seen a whole one so clear before. The points where it touched the ground glowed. I know, of course, that to describe a rainbow as massive is a misunderstanding of what a rainbow is. It doesn't take up space, it's just an optical illusion. It's not really there, and yet there it is. In the past, when I've heard people tell stories about being visited by a loved one after death via a rainbow or a bird or something, it always struck me as a little fantastical. The bird came up to that window because the bird is indigenous to that area. It doesn't seem to the outsider as a sign. But maybe someone felt connected to that bird because she lived her whole life looking at them through windows and on clotheslines. Who am I to call that fantastical or silly? I mean, this rainbow. In the moment, it was impossible not to connect it to her. I never even thought of Mom as a rainbow lover in particular. Would she come to me in the form of one? Maybe if she had her druthers, she'd come as a cardinal, but since cardinals don't live here, she used what she had. Like she always did. There is meaning everywhere because we see meaning. Some days while driving to work or in the grocery store parking lot, a rainbow is just light. And sometimes it's a reminder that the love is still there, for her, from her, all around us. Thank you. I would like to invite my child-long best friend, Sarah, up, and we're going to try and get through a song. Do you want to use the mic or do you want to just holler? Okay. I love you. You want to be here? Oh, I got a strap.
Wow, beautiful. So my name is Sam. I've been talking the whole time, but I'm the youngest son of Margi and Tom. And my dad and siblings, who all are just amazing public speakers, as we're all finding out this afternoon together. We all get that from my mom. You know, she was hired to speak all around the country about a number of things. And she always spoke from the heart, and her she had such a strong moral compass and such a layered, deep personality that she would just connect with every single person in every facet of her life. And we all know that about Mom. And I was trying to think the other day of like why that is. And somebody mentioned earlier how good of a listener she was. And I don't know anybody who could listen like my mom could, which is a lot harder to do than it sounds. And not only would she listen to what you had to say, she'd remember it. I think Louis might have said that. Her memory was amazing, and she cared about what you had to say. And deep down, she also held you accountable for when you screwed up. And that was a really important part of her, great to talk to, because she wouldn't just listen to you moaning about, oh, woe is me kind of thing. She would also point at the reasons why they were like that. And at the end of every talk that I ever had with my mom, she'd always steer it in the direction of, you will get past this, you can figure this out, whatever the problem was, big or small. She always ended on that note. And it was also said earlier that the reason why it was so powerful talking to my mom about any subject is because she believed in you. And she just knew that whatever issue you had, you could overcome it, and you knew that excuse me, never actually used a tissue box for this before, but I get it why. It's in all the movies. It makes sense. Went through like 100 tissues already, but I guess there's still some more. But she really believed in you as a person and the good of humanity as a greater thing. But having somebody like that in your corner, which we all did at one point in time, is a pretty powerful thing that we should all be very grateful to ever have. And on not a serious note, she was hilarious. Mom was so funny. All the stories you already heard are all true, and we've all had these experiences where she was just going with the flow and winging it in this beautiful way that just caused her to be so special to all of us. But one thing I wanted to say about her that wasn't said much yet, maybe her singing voice was a little bit said earlier, but me and Molly had the amazing experience growing up from as long as I can remember of my mom singing lullabies and my dad harmonizing to all these tunes like White Wings and Tour-a-Lure and all these amazing lullabies. And we grew up having that every day when we went to bed. And at the time, I didn't really think that was anything different than what other people had experienced or anything. And the more that I grow up, the more I realize how wonderfully unique and amazing that experience was that we got to have every single night. And it was so ingrained in my memory that when I was a little kid, I was probably first or second grade, I remember this dream, and I still remember it so vividly to this day. I was sitting there in bed by myself with Mom and Dad, lovingly looking over, singing some lullaby to me, and the rest of the room was dark, and there were other kids in other beds with their parents' spotlights on each one, as if it was some competition of who could sing to their kid the best tonight, every night. And of course, in my baseball first grader mind, I was thinking we're in the World Series of of parents singing to their kids. And it's such a funny dream to have, but it stuck with me so much, and it just the greater theme here is that Mom just cared so much for everybody in her life, and every single person was so touched by her in so many different ways. And so now I get to experience that as a father myself. I got 2 little boys, 3 and 6-year-old. Oh, here it comes. I knew this would be the tough part, but and I read to them and sing to them, and it's great, and me and my wife love it so much every day. But one thing that we've been grateful to be able to do is read a bunch of books, a bunch of kids' books to my kids every day. And some of them are new, some of them are old, some of them we were read to when we were kids. And one of the books is this book called I'll Love You Forever. And it's it's about basically a little boy who, sorry, excuse me for a second. It's about a little boy who, it chronicles every stage of him growing up as a baby, toddler, unruly teen, all the way up to an adult with a baby of his own. And at the end of every little section of the book that talks about what the boy is going through, the stereotypical toddler's crazy, angsty teen, etc., the mother would come in and sing the same song every night when the boy was asleep. And of course, every time I read that book, I immediately start my kids don't know how meaningful that is to me, but I just start crying all the time, and they're like, why is my dad just bawling for this book? But especially it got really real towards the end of my mom's life. In the book, it ends with the mom getting so old that she can't sing this lullaby to her son anymore. And so her son goes over to her house and cradles his mom, and sings that song. And then he goes back and sings the song to his own daughter. So it's full circle. I got through that. Oh my God, thank God. I tried saying that story so many times, it was like immediate crying, But anyway, so at the end of the day, it's just Mom cared about all of us so much. And the thing that was unique about that exact story also, in addition to that, was I realized the song, I'll attempt to sing it a little bit. I'm a little choked up, so it might be a little pitchy, but it goes, I'll love you forever, I'll like you for always, as long as I'm living, my baby you'll be. Perfect little melody in the book that my mom would sing at the end of every other page that would, when the mom goes in there and sings. And I've been reading it to my kids the last couple of years and singing that melody, not thinking anything of it. And then I kind of had the thought 6 or 7 months ago, or maybe like a half a year ago or something, that I'm like, where'd that melody come from? And I was looking on YouTube to try to find like other people. There's all these videos of people reading these books and stuff. And people have different ways of singing the song. And that melody is not at all in anybody's that I saw. So I came to the realization that Mom actually made up this beautiful, perfect lullaby to go to this song that only we had the opportunity to experience, and it's the most amazing thing. And it just goes to show you, deep down, she did everything from her heart. And even singing the song, just this simple song in a book to their kids, But anyway, I'm going to stop there. But Mom, I love you and miss you so much. Thank you. So next up, we're going to invite the grandkids up. Not my kids, they would run all over the place, but all the older grandkids, Lakshmi and Henry and G and Nina are going to come up, and a few of them are going to say a little something. So, tissues, water.
everybody. We're going by age. So I'm the oldest grandchild. My name is Gabrielle. I'm Danielle's daughter. And I would like to point out that I actually had the great honor and privilege of naming her, dubbing her Jima. That was all me. So credit where credit is due. It's an immense amount of pressure trying to encapsulate someone who is so larger than life in just a few words. Someone who is a writer to boot. Thankfully, I don't have to convince anyone here of her sense of humor, her generosity, her incredible fortitude, how fun she was, because you all knew her too. Equally impressive, but spoken about less, is her memory. I am lucky to have inherited many traits from my grandmother. Her laser-sharp memory is not one of them. If she was still here today, I'm sure she could recite the phone number of each person in this room by heart and their first address. She could probably tell me your entire dating history, too. She could recall events from 60 years prior with the clarity of something that had happened yesterday. It's not hard to see why you could get so lost in her world, in her orbit. She had a gravitational pull that would suck you into her world of heroes and villains, hear her historic triumph over the kids who used to, quote-unquote, whitewash her as a child, pushing her face into the cold Minnesota snow, and the charm of her father telling her witty and opinionated mother, "Now, Gracie, be nice," when she had gone too far. In this respect, I am only a pale imitation of her. My memory is a sieve of cloudy water. When she had her stroke, I was wrenched by the fear, the panic of forgetting. How was I supposed to conceive of her, myself, our family, the world, if she couldn't help to remind me? I scrambled to track and pin memories and facts like butterflies. How she loved skulls and Edward Gorey. How she taught me to make a bed with the top sheet perfectly folded over as an invitation to its guest. How she showed me how to get blood out of cloth with spit in cold water, and I watched for the first time as a red stain disappeared like magic. How prolific a writer she was. She always used to say when something surprising happened, "I'll have to write that in my diary." "But Jima, you don't have a diary," I would remind her with the literalism of a child. So one day she decided to write one for me, for a year, and she gave it to me at Christmas. There are other ones that I started writing earlier when she went into hospice, or further back. How she hated driving on the freeway. She thought that running a red light was a mortal sin. How she was always calling old men cute in an expression of genuine delight and adoration, which nevertheless evinced that she did not see herself in league with them in terms of age. How one night, after seeing Coraline in 3D, I also was blessed to live with her, with my mom, for 6 years. And so we would often go and see movies every other Friday night, a tradition which continued after we moved out into a different apartment. So we had gone to see Coraline, a movie where a girl's quote-unquote other mother attempts to sew buttons into her eyes. And after we got home, she called me into the kitchen before bed. She said, "I have something for you." She extended her closed fist, in her palm, a pair of buttons. How in high school, when I was caught at a Walgreens trying to shoplift alcohol, and they told me if someone didn't come and pick me up in the next 15 minutes, I was, quote, walking out of there in handcuffs. She came to my rescue, and in the car on the way home, the fear and mortification radiating off of me, she didn't blow up or try to make me feel worse than she knew I already did. She was gentle. And countless more, many of them already fading around the edges. She said I would have loved her mother, my great-grandmother Grace, and that Grace would have loved me. I felt like I knew her even though she died decades before I was born. If I have a child, as I hope to, I will tell them Jima's stories, and I will say, I wish you had known her. She would have loved you. And she will live on forever in our hearts and in the stories we share with one another, carrying her eternal torch of memory as she carried the torches of those who came before her. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Nina. I'm Andrea's daughter. So I've been reflecting a lot about my grandma, and I think I've inherited a decent amount of my personality from her. A third-generation English major, and miraculously a third-generation employed English major. My favorite Christmas song is All I Want for Christmas Is You by Mariah Carey, which I have vivid memories of her dancing around the kitchen singing when we had the radio on. And I'm pretty responsible like she was, but I allow myself some moments of recklessness, particularly when it comes to shoe shopping. I, like my grandma, have never not purchased a beautiful pair of shoes that I have come across. You may know, I think my mom mentioned earlier, that my grandma had over 200 pairs of shoes. I remember as a kid always going up to the attic where she kept all of them in a closet and trying them on, and then as I got older, my feet were too big for them, so I would just admire them. G lucked out. She and Jima are the same shoe size. And so she had the perfect pair of shoes for every possible outfit that she could have had. And she had many shoes that you build outfits around because they were such a statement shoe. She had Mary Janes in every color, skeleton print shoes, sneakers that looked like baseballs, and the revered Fluvogs, which she had a couple pairs of and would buy members of our family pairs as well. And I always loved her shoe collection because it represented her capacity for whimsy. And her zest for life is one of the things that I admire most about her. She would get excited by the smallest of things, like it's snowing, and she would crack up at even small things like scrolling through posts on the Havanese Dog Lovers Facebook page, which she became a very involved member of later in life. She was always looking for humor in everything, and I always, knowing that she had suffered so much loss early in her life, I always admired that about her. How much joy she found, and how she so freely allowed herself to experience joy in the moment without being afraid of losing it. And as a result, she seemed to experience a lot of joy in her daily life. And when she would think back to loved ones of hers that she had lost, particularly her beloved Aunt Fuffy, she would always kind of smile and shake her head and think about them, and that's how I want to think about her. I always want to think about her and experience happiness when I do. And from what I've heard, Fuffy had a mischievous streak, and that got passed down to my grandma, and that got passed down to my mom in some ways. And then hopefully to me a little bit too. And I've been reflecting a lot about her in the past week and trying to think about all the ways in which I hope to be like her. But in all my thinking about her in this past week, I didn't put together until last night that in the past week I've been in Portland, I bought 3 pairs of shoes. And it's pretty rare to encounter a pair of shoes that they're just so good I can't not buy them. And I think she might have sent me 3 pairs in the past week.
So that concludes the part of the program where the close family speaks. We're going to do one more thing before we open the mic up, and that I mentioned at the beginning, we're going to sing one song together that most represents my mom. I'm pretty sure you all can agree, "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" is a pretty good version. Anybody guess it? We all know the words? Give me a second, I'm going to take my trumpet out. So I'm going to give a little couple introduction line, and then let's all sing it. And this one is for you, Mom. Take me out to the ball game. Go Mariners! We love and miss you so much, Mom. So at this point, anybody who'd like to say a thing or two about Mom, I think the best way to do it is maybe come and sit in these open chairs here. I'll move a couple of those bags, and anybody who wants to come up and say a thing or two, maybe go and take a seat here so we can kind of get up and not have to have a long way to walk in between speeches. So, and I think the best way to probably do this is to come up and introduce yourself and go from there, and we'll keep the mic open. So would you like to go first?
Wrote down some notes so I can make sure I'm precise of what I'm going to say. I'm Sequoia. Margi knew me as Shay. I moved here to Portland in 2009. Never been here ever before. And I met Margi, Victoria, and Reva at HTP when I moved here. And Margi and I, over the years that I've lived here, had lots of conversations about life and the work that she did working with women and the women in the prison system. And everything that her family has said about how caring and compassionate she was, I felt that in our conversations, and I really do appreciate, and I will remember those conversations. I'll remember seeing her every now and then out in the street. I'm just out and about, and she's just driving around in her little red VW Bug. I'd be like, "That's Margi, I know that car." And listening to her family speak about her, my family is kind of similar. My parents have been married for 48 years. I'm the oldest of 4 kids. You guys have one more of your family. And we are a music family. And speaking of which, Tom, Margi told me that you played music, and I've been a part of KBOO Community Radio here since I've lived here 16 years. And I told her that. She's like, "Oh, my son would probably really love that." And I'm like, "Well, let me know, and then maybe I can introduce them." So I'm glad I got to see who Tom was, the musician. My father is also a musician, so a lot of parallels to her family that I didn't realize until we've had the celebration. I have a couple of soaps that she's given me over the years. I still have them. One is a Halloween one that I saved and I put out during the holiday season, or Halloween season. I'm like, this is a cute little soap. So, I still have a lot of the soaps that she's given me. And I want to bring up something really quick about her having compassion and love and hope. For me, I don't have a lot of hope for society. But it's good to know that Margi did have that, and she changed a lot of people's lives who may not also have hope for, where we're going in the world. and, you know, and the fact that she did have that for people, and, you know, she has something about her that's dying in these days and times. There's not a lot of hope and compassion to get people to move along and be that light for those people who need it. So I think that will be the main thing that's missed in this world, is a Margi who actually did have love and compassion for people, and to see them through when they were lost and didn't have a path. So I'm sure that will be very much missed. So that's all I wanted to say. I wanted to say those few things, but I'm not getting off this stage, and I'm probably not leaving until I get that man-catching lasagna recipe. I need that. I need you guys to pass me that today, okay? We'll miss you, Margi. Thank you.
Hi. I'm just glad to be by this tissue box. Can you hear us? I'm Ziggy.
And I'm Peaches.
And
We're from Greenhouse.
the first generation greenhouse.
I was the first person to ever walk into Greenhouse. And when I walked in, Margie, of course, gave me a hug. And she just basically told me that she loved me. She didn't even know me. But she loved me through everything that I couldn't love myself through. She was my mom. She was my best friend. She was my big sister. She was my confidant.
Yeah, so me and Nellie were on the streets for 4.5 years before there was ever a street youth organization in the United States, and that was Margie. She started it. We couldn't eat at food banks till we were 18. We couldn't get a work permit till we were 14. So it was a different world than it is today, for sure. And I wouldn't be alive today. I wouldn't have a moral compass. I wouldn't believe in humanity if it wasn't for Margie. She was, I mean, I've listened to you guys, and I'm sorry we were late, we were lost. But I've listened to you guys, and I mean, I've heard bits and pieces of all your guys' lives when I was younger, but she was my mother. She was the closest thing I ever knew. And I'm at a loss for words all of a sudden.
I got the opportunity to see a different side of Margie when we all went to New York for the Sally Jesse Raphael show. And the way that she spoke for us, and she was just awesome. She knew us inside and out. We didn't have to tell her what we were feeling. She knew. I don't know how, but she knew. And I just want to thank all of you for sharing her with us.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, she cared for us. I mean, our generation, I believe, in my opinion, but, you know, we were like the worst, you know. We were truly the lost and the forgotten, and we did what we had to. And that's putting it kindly. And she cared for us anyways.
If we were cold, she made sure that we were warm. If we were hungry, she made
Nobody
sure
ever
that we
cared
ate.
before.
If we just needed a shoulder to cry on, she was there. And I disappeared for, 12 years? And I came back to Portland, and he was the first person I run into at Catholic Charities. It's Margie. And she got me started again on my housing, and I just got my housing after all these years. I just got it in November of last year, and it's all due to her.
Like I said, you know, the first year they opened up, I was pregnant. I think shortly after that I was 14, and I think she was pregnant with Sam, maybe. I had my oldest daughter in I'm sorry, 84. Yeah, so we were pregnant together. But she was there with me in labor at the hospital. And she honestly was the most profound, remarkable person I've ever known in my life. You don't know how much she still means to me, even though she hasn't been I haven't been present there. I remember Tom, you lifted your guys' couch up 3 floors in my first apartment through the window because we couldn't get it around the corner in the elevator. Yeah, we did. There's so much more we could say. I'm sure we could stand up here forever. I just,
We just want to say that we love her and we miss her, and she's not dead. She lives in all of us.
Thank you. I've heard about peaches for a long time, so it's kind of neat to finally see peaches. I'm Maureen Haggerty. Margie and I met at Cenex when she met Tom. And one of the things that bonded us together is we were both in love at the same time, and we'd go to coffee breaks that lasted like an hour or two as we were mooning over our respective loves. She did better long-term than I did, but that's okay. But one of the things I wanted to say about Margie, you've all talked about how important hope was to her, and you also talked about her spontaneity. But what's really clear about hope is it's a clear belief in the future. And Margie got sick after she had the first 3 children, and the doctors wanted to remove both of her ovaries, and she told me she had to fight like a tiger to save one. And because she did that, Sam and Molly exist today. So her clear sense of hope and future resulted in a huge amount of gifts for all of us. Amazing.
Can everyone hear me? Do I need to eat the mic a little bit more? Eat it? All right, great. So I'm definitely going to cry, and I didn't bring my glasses, so this is going to go great. All right. Hi, I'm Stephen Pelnat. I'm Molly's husband. I'm Margie and Tom's son-in-law, and on the longer continuum of people here, I've known her very little time. It's a measly 15 years. So I'm going to read from the page, because if I do this extemporaneously, we'll be here all day. All right. Margie always referred to the homeless folks she worked with as her friends. That casual, considered decision regarding deprived and unfortunate people as equals, worthy of friendship, is fundamental to my understanding and admiration of her. Where you've come from, the coarseness of your language, these are not the qualities that make a person and not what makes a friend. One of my favorite Margieisms was, as a great American once said, or in the words of a great American, which was usually followed up by some light ribbing of Tom by quotation. So, laced into that phrase, however, was such a knowing, familiar adult love for her husband, and the irony of the statement looped all the way back around into sincerity. She was funny, and you could have it both ways. When I think of Margie, I think of sitting in the nook at the house in Northeast, talking about everything, nothing. Endless sets of reading glasses perched beneath or above her fluttering eyebrows while she read. Pleasant befuddlement as her old cat Missy bit her sleeve for some reason. Annual disappointment in the Seattle Mariners. Food, obviously, so much food. She was willing to experiment, to try new things, simply out of personal enjoyment and the thrill of having something new to share. It's been stated many times and in many ways today, but Margie was just someone who did things. If she didn't know how, she would figure it out. If she hadn't done it before, that was no guarantee that she would not attempt it now. A person in process, practicing gratitude to be here all along. The sheer number of jumps she did as a skydiver superficially described the contours of this quality. The thanks, praise, and eagerness she offered in conversation with everyone, filling in the lines, swelling, expanding. Very shortly after the stroke, the Dechenne's beloved friend Mark Kramer passed away. The entire immediate family wanted to attend the funeral, but with so much uncertainty about Margie's condition after the stroke, it was decided that she had best not travel, so I stayed here with her while the family went to the funeral. I went into it nervous that either some disaster would occur while I was the one there, or that communication would be so rocky and challenging that, absent Tom, she would feel alone in my company. I shouldn't have worried. She was still her. Sometimes her speech was just syllables seeking shape, and sometimes it was full sentences, halting and arrhythmic, but still full of intention, directed towards the positive. We were driving around Portland in the early summer or walking Georgie near the house. She still called flowers beautiful, still laughed, and she said thank you a lot. I thought then and now that gratitude remained front of mind regardless of what else her mind might have been experiencing. An excitement of my mother-in-law. Everything kind of leaning towards the affirmative. A final clear memory, before the stroke, before any of this, it was in the late COVID times, just as things had begun to lift and normalize. We were at their house with Sam and Kay, Tom and Margie, and Han was just a tiny baby at the time. Margie was holding him wordlessly, cradling his head and gazing into her grandson's face, smiling. It was a moment she didn't intend to be observed. It was unself-conscious love. The memory blossoms outwards in every direction, past, present, and future. Every conversation she had with the grandkids when they were children, truly interested and invested in what they had to say. Every concert, reading, promotion, and event that she always showed up for, with bells on, as she might say. Never a sense that it was an imposition. She was glad to be here. Gratitude, unself-conscious love in a world full of friends. So, as a great American once said, thank you. Thank you, Margie. I love you and I'll miss you.
My name is Nancy. I had to write my notes down, but I made sure they were grammatically correct. Margie would have insisted on it. So I met Margie when we were both working at United Way, and we became fast friends from the very beginning. There's always an ease about her, warm, funny, and completely genuine. She was the kind of friend everyone would want, loyal, honest, and she was always there when you needed her. And this is true. In true Margie fashion, she can support you completely and make you laugh. Once she helped me write, and this is so true, a 7-page breakup letter to a boyfriend named Rusty. Somewhere along the line, she looked at me and she said, Nancy, Rusty isn't a boyfriend's name, it's a dog's name. She always knew how to make you feel better about yourself. She was blessed with a beautiful family. She adored her husband, Tom, her children, and especially her beloved grandchildren. They were the light of her life. Now, it's been said about Christmas, how much she loved Christmas. You saw the Christmas village that would take over her whole house. And she also had a special cubby made upstairs to hold that was dedicated solely to storing her enormous Christmas wreath. But, however, you might assume that Christmas was her favorite day of the year, but you'd be wrong. It was opening day. Over the years, we went to 24 opening days together, and she greeted every one of them with excitement, hope, and the unwavering belief that this was the year, might be the year for the Mariners. It's so true. This year, Tom and I went to opening day without her. It was bittersweet. We brought a part of her with us and left a small portion, just a small portion, of her ashes at the Dave Niehaus statue. Margie, yes. Margie always said that Dave was the voice of God, and so I'd like to think they're both up there now watching the Mariners together. I always think of Margie when baseball season begins, full of hope, loyal to the end, and always believing that this could be the year, which it will be. I miss her dearly and feel incredibly lucky to have had her for my friend.
Hello, everyone. My name is Roxanne Hatfield. I go by Storms. I met Margie in 1983. I was the second greenhouse kid to get an intake at the Salvation Army greenhouse. And I just want to say that your wife and your mom and your grandmother was one of the most caring, loving people that I have ever met in my life. Margie changed my life. I wouldn't be the person I am today without her. And I remember when I met her when I was like 13 years old. And I remember when I was 15, I asked Margie, she was the mom I didn't have, and I asked her to adopt me. And in her, what I now realize, her fashion, she was like, you wouldn't want me to adopt you. I'm too strict. You know, like, and looking back, I realized that was a big, it was a big boundary issue, probably. But, you know, I interacted with her a lot over the years. Even after I got clean and sober, I was houseless on and off up into my mid-30s. I'm in my mid-50s now, and if it wasn't for the greenhouse and the work that she did there, I don't think a lot of us would be alive today. I really believe that. And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you for sharing her with us.
Well, my phone died, so I don't have my notes, so oh well. I still remember her well. My name's Ashanti. I was in Greenhouse from like 94 to 99. Sorry, that's about right. And I remember that there's a light in her eyes that wouldn't be diminished no matter what happened, because some of the craziest shit happened inside, excuse my language, but inside or outside of Greenhouse, and she would still, she would handle it with grace, and then she would be firm with people and let them know what the expectations were and what the consequences were, their actions were, and when they came back, she would handle them with love, and not as if nothing had happened, but as if there's still a chance that you could be accepted and welcome in this place, and you'd still get fed, and you'd still have a place. And that really stuck with me. Not that because a lot of those kids just were really acting out because either they didn't know how to maintain their own boundaries, or they had fear, or they just had a lot of trauma, and sometimes they reacted really quickly. So it taught me how to treat people and handle them with respect and but also with like a true knowledge of how to maintain the space, but also maintain love for people. So since then, I've been able to I have a very similar job. I'm a case manager for rapid rehousing and long-term rental assistance. I probably would have never taken that job if it wasn't for the love and care and the ability to show a way to have boundaries that she did. Thank you very much.
So I'm going to keep this really brief because I'm really horribly bad with people. So my name is Maya, and I used to be Silverwind. And I'm one of the old crowd. I started going into Greenhouse the year they opened their doors. And I'm one of those people that would not be here, except for Margie. She saved my life when I was 16. Most of us down at Greenhouse, we didn't have the beautiful family life that you guys have had. And, we turned to drugs, we turned to whatever. Well, somebody gave me some drugs, and I just sure, I'll eat these. I had an allergic reaction to barbiturates. And she got me to the hospital and saved my life that night. I can't really add to what she meant to all of us. I just really wanted to reiterate the point to the family. Thank you so much for sharing your mom with us. You have no idea how much some of us needed her. Thank you.
I like the sound of my own voice, but I'm super nervous. My name's Shelley Harding. I don't remember the year. I met your mother when I was 15. I'm 58 now. I remember when Sam and Molly were little kids, too. I don't remember it, but if you knew me then, your mom always, I would come in hot downstairs at camp, calling everybody F-bombers, you know, and your mom always still made me feel really welcome. I think the biggest testament to your mother, and like I heard the gentleman before me share, is that I also grew up to be a social worker. First to get to work with families in addiction to keep their kids out of foster care, and now I work with the houseless community too. Yeah, and it sucks what Multnomah County is doing, but moving forward. And so, I kind of like you guys said, I think all we have to leave behind in this world is our character, and I try to remember that and be intentional with the people that I help. So how many people were kids at Greenhouse that Margie helped? So look at all of us. Look how she changed the world, helping one child at a time. And I'm sure you already know it, but that's what I tell myself as I'm going to work, reminding to meet people where they're at, just like she met all of us where we were at, you know, kids that called her a F-bomb, and, you know, she saw something in us that we didn't see in ourselves. And every day when I'm driving to work. And and what a great honor. The last messages I shared with her was community partnering with her during COVID. You know, when she was at Catholic Charities, and that 15-year-old, like, feral, drug-addicted me never would have saw that. And she stayed with me through my whole life. And the greatest treasure that I have, and we still have it among all the Thomas Trains, is a Goodnight Moon book she bought my son. He's now 24. And it's all tattered, and I can't, like I heard your brother say, I can't wait till my son can read that book to his kids. And that's at the end.
Hi, everyone. My name is Amanda Pena, and I was one of the former Jesuit volunteers in 2016 at HTP. I did write some things, and I'm overcome with emotion right now because I think everything that everyone has shared today, like, it just grazes the surface of who Margie was to all of us. And I come from a very big, loud Mexican family that is very chaotic and warm and also a little bit traumatic. And so for me, I think, like, trying to grow up and figure out my own way was really difficult in that context sometimes. And I share that because who Margie was to me was a really healing mother figure. And she asked me all these questions that adults never asked me before. And she gave me hope about what it's like to be a good partner and a good mother and a good supervisor and a good advocate. She created this template that I still use today. And so I really, like, don't know how to communicate just how grateful I am to the Dechenne family. Not just for sharing your mom, but loving me as well in my seasons of life. Opening your home to my sister and I in Princeton to share at Thanksgiving. Just Margie's life is so beautiful and so rich and so deep and so wholesome and so honest. It is love in its purest form, and I think it's wonderful when you can see one individual do that, but when you have a whole family that is created in that and around it and exudes it like that, I just want to say, like, I love all of you so much, and I'm so grateful for the ways that you guys have touched my life, because it's fundamentally changed the ways that I think about the kind of family I want to raise and have. So, I did, like I said, I did prepare a little something, and I'm just going to kind of read it, and part of it is at the end, and I'll kind of note that, but when Margie retired from HTP, I wrote a little something about, like, a special memory about Margie, and I completely forgot I wrote this, because this was years ago now, and just the other day I was thinking about coming here, and I remember being with Margie, and she always used to tell me, she really loved my writing, and she would always, I didn't think I wrote that well, but she would always tell me that she was like, when I die, you have to give my eulogy. And I was like, that's a lot of pressure, Margie. I could never do that. And so, like, I was thinking about that coming here, and I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to write something, and it has to be like, you know, something that Margie would like love to read. And so I was like really stressed, and then I came across just this little thing that I wrote for her retirement, and so I'm gonna read that with you guys. There's a version of my life that I wish kept me in Portland and forever near Margie, but I'm grateful to have been gifted a beautiful year and a half here that felt completely anchored by her friendship, love, kindness, passion, and commitment to keeping laughter and joy alive, no matter how dark and hopeless it can often feel working in tough lines of service work. 18 months of Margie's mentorship and friendship ended up serving as a blueprint and guiding force behind how I built the next decade of my career, my community, my life, and the way I think about love. Her passion, stories, and love for advocating for high-risk youth kept my hope alive and feet on the ground when I taught high school on the Texas-Mexico border, college counseling and after-school programs for teens in Philly, and now my work managing community violence intervention programs in Kensington, one of Philly's toughest neighborhoods in the heart of the largest open-air drug market on the eastern seaboard. I've seen my share of difficult things and navigated intense dynamics in people, but I always imagined how Margie would approach it, how she'd build her team, how she'd create community, and how she'd laugh and smile the whole way through it while encouraging you to love everyone around you while doing that. She'd always tell me that she would never be a feeble old lady, that she'd drop dead doing what she loves, and that spirit was felt in every nook and cranny of her life that she shared with me. Margie is hands down my favorite person on the planet, so it's impossible to pick just one favorite memory of her. I'd have to say that when I think about a favorite memory with Margie, it occurs like one giant flashback over the last 11 years I've had the privilege of knowing her. Memories that flood my mind like a brief flash of lightning. Margie driving her red Volkswagen Bug with a left turn signal that just would never turn off because she kept forgetting. Her flannel shirts and her many, many, many pairs of adorable shoes. The small frame of her colorful glasses, cups of pour-over Starbucks coffee, and a stash of chocolates reserved for staff meetings on Mondays. Bowls of handmade ice cream, jars of salted caramel, slices of homegrown tomatoes. The beauty and sweet fragrance of soaps that she made. I especially loved the rose ones with dried petals on the top. I did take one of those. The heartiness of her laughter and the way her whole face lights up when she laughs. Phrases like, that person's out there where the buses don't run, and that wouldn't even make my sports page when you try to tell her something traumatic. The way she announces every word and enunciates, she emphasizes the word believe, like believe. You would not believe it when telling a story. How fiercely she protects lunchtime with the HTP staff and yells at us to come and eat to those still trying to sneak in some work from their desks. All of her stories, the funny ones, the crazy ones, the happy and the heart-wrenching, sitting in her office during supervision, and how even if I had nothing work-related to talk about with her, she protected that hour to demonstrate that nurturing our relationship was her priority. Looking out from the stage at gospel choir concerts when I was singing and my own mother wasn't there, but I would see her and Tom in the crowd. Spending Thanksgiving, the one and only Thanksgiving I ever missed spending with my own family, with her and her family in Jersey. Every moment I spent in her home, her car, HTP, on the phone, the ways she showed a genuine curiosity in me and my life that made me feel truly loved and appreciated and seen for the first time in my life. The way she continues to support and love me now. When I picture Margie in my head, I always imagine her in a lush garden with thriving tomato plants, with berries and zucchini and squashes. And it makes sense considering how much she loves gardening and how successful her harvests always are. My tomatoes are doing okay, but my cucumbers are dead now. But that doesn't surprise me. Margie lived life like that of a gardener. She always knew how to take rain and manure in any season and use it to create rich soil for herself and the people around her. Every person and experience sowed into her life is tended to and nurtured with so much love and sunshine and space that they grow abundantly, reaping bountiful harvests of adventure and relationships of their own. It's why, when I think of Margie, I am simultaneously always thinking about Tom and her children and the deep love and fun they exude. Because in Margie's garden, the roots of every person can only grow deeper and deeper in each season. The plot expands, and a beautiful diversity of people are always welcomed into it, and she makes sure to send folks with a basket of its fruits to take on the way. This rich way of living and giving stems from her steadfast commitment to savor every moment and cultivate each relationship to its fullest. In my 1 year as a JV, I learned more about how to be a better person, friend, supervisor, coworker, wife, mother, and human than I have ever learned in my entire life. For every year thereafter, my relationships and experiences continue to grow from those starter plants she gave me to plant in my own life garden, and from the seeds I never knew she planted there for me when I wasn't paying enough attention. My relationship with Margie was arguably the most sacred friendship I had in my life, and the one that pulls my heart with the same kind of force is when I think about how much I love my own mom. In 1 year, her love and friendship repotted me in the garden my mom always wanted to, but just never could do on her own because of her trauma and the wounds from her past. Without ever meaning to, Margie stepped in and provided enough extra sunshine and TLC to help me thrive in ways I never knew I could, always reminded me that I had it there all along. So I suppose Margie retiring Earthside is bittersweet because it is hard to imagine a garden like this life growing without her there to tend to it each day. But if I know anything about Margie, Earthside retirement is the season where the world just gets to see how deep those roots of her labor, love, sweat and tears are, that we're able to thrive and grow on our own the way she always intended. And perhaps this is the season where we get to see Margie rest and enjoy the legacy of all that she has sown so beautifully into the world now and for generations to come. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Megan. I'm a greenhouse kid. I met Margie in '91 at the greenhouse when I landed there at age 15. Everything that I've heard here today, man, I missed out on so much getting to know her. I was only at the greenhouse for, I feel, a fairly short period of time, but what the fondest memory of Margie that I have is the Moms Club. I had a couple pregnancies fairly early in the 90s. I had a little boy in 92, and then a set of twins in 96, and she had the Moms Club for the girls at the greenhouse, and she would have a tea, like a luncheon tea, where she would actually take us to her home in Northeast Portland. And I felt honored by Margie, and I learned lessons through that experience that has carried me on throughout my life. One of those huge lessons that I always speak to people about, even today, is that I look at, my mind analyzes all the time, drives me crazy, but I look at our youth today and our young people today, and one of the things that I feel society is missing
is a code of ethics that we learned. And this code of ethics that we learned from Margie. We really did. And I've heard other greenhouse kids speak on this same thing, is like we learn to honor other people. We learn to have respect for other people. We learned not to bite the hand that feeds you. Like, she took us into her home. She trusted us in her home. She had all these wonderful things we didn't take from her. You know what I mean? We didn't go in her home and go, oh, let's see what we can get from Margie today. No, we loved and respected Margie because she loved and respected us. You know what I mean? There was a mutual, just a mutual respect and equality that we felt from her. And we'd sit down and we'd have our tea, you know, with her beautiful little china. It was just awesome. But I remembered that, and in about, I can't remember, it was right at the beginning of COVID, 2021, I was on Facebook and I found Margie. It had been years. I hadn't seen her since I was like 18 years old. And I found her and I asked her for lunch. And we went to a Ethiopian restaurant in, I think, on Hawthorne. And I wanted to thank her for everything that she'd done for me. And she had the audacity to tell me she had nothing to do with it. It was all me. It was all me. I broke down in tears. I said, are you kidding me? It was all you, Margie. It was all you. You saved my life. Are you kidding me? And she still continued, no, Megan, you did that. You did all the hard work. I said, Margie, you have no idea what you did for me by taking me into your home and trusting me. I was scum of the earth back then. That's how I viewed myself. I lived under a bridge. I was dirty, and you didn't even require, all you did was ask me to wash my hands to come into your house. You know what I mean? So I miss her. I've missed her every day since I found out, well, before I found out that she passed, but I've missed her. I think of her often, and I'm grateful for your family. Sitting here today, I've cried many times because I think that your family has been a dream of mine. Like, I remember listening to her stories about her family and your family as I grew up at the greenhouse while I was engaged there. And it's just been a dream of mine to have my own family that way. You guys are a really hard number to live up to, by the way. Really, really, really. But you're blessed. I thank you so much for sharing her with us and sharing yourselves with us today. I really do. Thank you so much.
I forgot to say something when I came up. I'm Ziggy, just to remind you. So I named, some of you might have heard of the International Starical Directory. Anyways, I named a star after her that we can see in the night sky in July from downtown Portland. It's a really bright star. And how that works is that forever, as long as humanity exists, they won't refer to that star as a number. It'll be referred to as Margi Dechenne. And I made the dedication. I said, a bright light to shine forever on lost and forgotten children.
Hello, my name's Evan, and I used to work at Greenhouse and facilitated the recreation program there and a lot of activities. But the reason I'm up here is I see Jubilee back here in a wheelchair, and she wants to say something. And I don't know, is this mic? I can pull it out. And, you want the mic? I can bring it to you. Okay. Here you go, Jubilee.
So I didn't put a lot of thought into the fact that she was passing away. Like, life happens, life ends. When my fiance, who's never known any of y'all, walked me into this building, and he saw this whole building people sitting here. He's like, wow. And I said, yeah, she touched all of us. And I guess that's the best I can say, is that Margie touched all of us. All of us have been touched by her for whatever reason, whether she was his mom or if she worked at that's how I knew her. I found her at Greenhouse. But Margie has touched all of us. And all of us are amazing because if she touched. Because of her touch. We are all amazing. Every person she's ever touched. And I'm sorry, I can't.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, it's open.
So I am Molly Ann, or to the Deschenes, I'm Molly Ann. And they've been a big part of my family. When I was born, Margie was just 12 years old, and she was my godmother. And so she took me under her wing from the time I was born until just recently. She had a big impact on my life. And so I'm one of Jean and Diane's 10 children. And we celebrated a lot of times together with the Dechenne family. And I really wanted to get up here today and talk on behalf of my mom, who I know would really want to be here today. And my mom and Margie were 13 years apart, so there was a big gap in their lives. And I think my mom really played a big role in Margie's life in being a mother to her. They lost their mother at a very young age. And my mom really wanted to be here today. She's 94 years old, and I know if she were here, she would just want to say thank you for all the memories and times we've shared together, and that she loves you all dearly. And so on behalf of my mom and all the Hoffman family, we are just so blessed and so thankful.
Sorry, I was wrangling my kids. Nothing new there. Anybody else want to say anything before we close out here? Well, to every... Yes, Margie was the best. Mom was the best. We all miss you so much. But again, on... Oh, Coach Steve? We're going to bring Steve Slavic up. Yes, Mom. This is Steve Slavic. Mike?
I'm Coach Steve, and I had the pleasure of coaching Sammy here and Molly in baseball. And actually, you beat me to the punch singing my favorite song.
Oh.
But I think all of us here can feel the presence of Margie, the love that's here. And I think all of us want to say something. But I'm going to make it easy. We're going to sing one of my other favorite songs. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. This is for Coach Tom. The other night, dear, while I lay sleeping,
I dreamt I held you in my arms.
When I woke.
But when I woke, dear, I was mistaken.
So
and I held my head and I cried.
Everybody, here we go.
You are my sunshine, my sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. Thank you, Steve. Thank you. So to close out, I want to thank Joshua so much for reaching out. He knew Mom from way back when. He's doing all the audio and technical stuff here, including the live broadcast. And actually, speaking of which, one thing that we didn't say, this morning KGW played a really great story on TV. You can look it up, literally just Google search KGW, Margi Dechenne, and it will come up. And it's online, so be sure to check that out. It kind of covers a lot of her life. But we couldn't figure out how to play it today, so you guys can do that on your own. But on behalf of the Dechenne family, thank you so much for coming and sharing your stories. We're all just so happy that you could all come here. And be sure to grab a book and a bar of soap whenever you leave. But we're going to open up the other room to sandwiches and coffee and all sorts of drinks. Hold on, anything else? Okay. So anyway, let's all go over there and, enjoy ourselves. Thank you so much.